Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of BAM! Go Pack Go. I'll be your host, Ben.
And I'll be your co-host, Bryson.
And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And you can also follow us on TikTok at bam.brands. That's on TikTok at bam.brands. So, Bryson, first of all, before we get into the kind of meat and potatoes of this episode here, wanted to throw out a congratulations to Mr. Sharp making it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So he's enshrined right alongside his brother now. So finally, certainly overdue, but absolutely well deserved, and excited to potentially see his accolades up at Lambeau too. So let's go ahead and dive into it, Bryson. So a previous episode we kind of talked about and dove into Josh Jacobs' comments about his desire.
Needing a number one wide receiver.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. About his desire to bring in, not necessarily just a number one, bringing in a veteran presence at that position. So, naturally, as it goes in the media world, Jordan Love was asked about this. And he had more of a, political response to the question when they asked him about, Josh Jacobs, banging on the table for the Packers to acquire one of these premier veteran wide receivers. So Love basically said, just paraphrasing a little bit here, said I was talking with people yesterday. It's been saying when you add good players to a good team, good things will happen. So that was Love's answer when asked about Josh Jacobs' comments to adding a veteran wide receiver. So what's that mean? When you hear Jordan Love say that, Bryson, what do you take out of that?
Getting that true number one.
Yeah, getting that true number one, and it certainly sounds like he didn't slam the door shut on it. He certainly sounded open to it to me, right? He's not, and how could you be completely satisfied with who you have in there right now? And again, it's not a knock on those guys right now. It's just simply, nobody really stepped up this past year to take the reins of that number one wide receiver. So I wouldn't call it a regression, but you certainly didn't see that progression that you hope to see here coming into the season. You saw signs of it early with Reed, but that really tampered off kind of towards the end of the year for us. So again, Josh Jacobs questioned about it again, his comments again, just here recently, and he said, he still stands behind his comments. He said he wanted to reiterate though that he does love the guys that they have. It absolutely wasn't a knock at who they have there in the locker room, right? It wasn't a dig at who they have. Jacobs just said, a veteran wide receiver just, again, paraphrasing here a little bit, makes the room a little bit better. Gives, little nuggets here and there, some learning curves for some of these younger wide receivers we do have. Not only that, he wanted to remind people, and we've been doing it along the way as well, that Christian Watson's going to be out. So, at least week 12. So certainly the later part of the season, you're not going to have that production from Christian Watson. So you're going to have to find that.
Probably won't be his normal self till week 15.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a build-up time frame after an injury like that, right? You don't just come back from a torn ACL injury or a major knee injury and then just pick up right where you left off, right? So he's, if he's cleared to play, Green Bay typically errs on the side of caution with an injury like this. So, there's being in Green Bay, week 12 is probably pretty optimistic. I probably wouldn't anticipate seeing him until probably week, 14, 13, possibly. But, somebody's going to have to pick up that production that we don't have with Christian Watson being out. So can you address that in the draft? Yeah, you possibly could. But I think, Josh Jacobs is really hinting at, bringing, the value of having a veteran on the team. Yeah, it's great. We've been the youngest team in the league here 2 years running. But, the value of having a veteran there that that could potentially, as he said, just kind of drop nuggets for some of these younger guys to pick up. Whether it's knowing the correct route, depth of the route, when to break off a route, things like that. And then having the sure hands of a proven guy certainly helps with the confidence of Jordan Love as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to just kind of go on. This statement from Jacobs really kind of got me excited, right? It tells me, he's playing for the right reasons. His tensions are, there. He's got a goal in mind, and it should be the goal of the entire organization. So, what he said, I'm at a place, man, where all I care about is winning. Said, I don't know how long I have left in this game, and I never take it for granted. So for me, I'm just trying to say before it's all said and done that I got to put on one of those rings and hold up the Lombardi. So that just kind of echoes what all of us as Packer fans want. We want to add another ring, another trophy to the case. And seeing him speak on that, right? So it excites me, right? So what do you kind of take out of those comments, Bryson?
Yeah, he does deserve a wing before he goes.
I agree, and no better place to do it than Green Bay, right?
Mm-hmm. Where he started.
Yeah, absolutely. It's where the Super Bowl has started. No doubt about that. Green Bay won the first two Super Bowls, Super Bowl I and Super Bowl II, matter of fact. So, but yeah, no, I mean, this just comments like that, right? Like his intentions are there, right? He's not there trying to rub anybody wrong in that receiver room. If anything, these receivers should be taking out of it, motivation. He's work harder, get better, try to solidify that number one spot right there. And we're just not seeing that. Nobody's taking the reins. As I mentioned here just a couple minutes ago, Jaden Reed, showed potential of that, but it really tapered off. And we don't have that downfield threat, especially with Watson going to be out the bulk of next season. We don't have that over the top, guy that's going to blow you by or make these spectacular catches with Watson out. You got Romeo Doubs, perfect number 2 wide receiver, right? Is Romeo Doubs a number 1? No. Is he ever going to develop into a number 1? Probably not, but he's a great complementary wide receiver. So, he talked about adding a veteran, right? So there's a couple wide receivers that are, to me, top of the line right now, right? And one of them's not necessarily available right now, in Devontae Adams. We'll take a look at his stats again, but certainly I think you could probably work a deal for him, just based off his age and, probably something that's more of a team-friendly deal as well, right? And then the other guy I wanted to look at, is probably going to be a little bit more expensive. It isn't necessarily that veteran. He's never truly been in the position of being a number 1 wide receiver because of Jamar Chase. And, of course, I'm talking about T. Higgins here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a look at T. Higgins here first. Bryson, does that sound all right?
Yeah.
All right, so let me share this out here. So here's T. Higgins. So we're looking at PFF's grades and stats on him for this past season here.
Yeah. Overall grade 88.2, fifth in the league. Receiving grade 88.3, seventh in the league. Targets 104, 27th in the league. Receptions 73, 24th in the league. Receiving yards 911, 28th in the league. Receiving touchdowns 10, 5th in the league.
Yeah, so when you look at this, Bryson, what kind of stands out to you on that?
Probably most that stands out. I'd say probably the thing that stands out to me the most, probably overall grade.
Yeah, no, I mean, he certainly graded out well overall as a wide receiver. And it really, for all intents and purposes, it was...
And that's the number 2.
Yeah, he's doing this as a number 2 with Jamar Chase. there. You're absolutely right. So I just kind of want to look at this here real quick. So we're looking at his drops. He had 2 drops on the year, and another big one I like to look at: receiving touchdowns. Right? Is he that guy? Is he going to be a threat to find the end zone? So he finished with 10 receiving touchdowns. Pretty solid season, especially when you're looked at as a number 2 on your own team. So 2 drop passes, 10 receiving touchdowns, pretty darn good year, right? Now, how would a guy like him respond as being? Could he be a number 1 on a team? He's never had to face that.
I feel like he could be on the Packers because we just needed number 1 so bad,
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and he would. He'd instantly, day one, he'd walk through the door there, and he would be our number 1 wide receiver. I guess one of my concern is how would he handle that, right? Because right now, he's not. Jamar Chase is, the guy that defenses are, really scheming for. And certainly they got a scheme for Higgins as well, but, Jamar Chase is going to be that number 1 guy they're scheming for. So how does he respond when he is that guy that defenses are scheming for, right? We've never really seen, so that would be a big question mark for me, right? You've never really seen him have to take on that role of a number 1 wide receiver. Could he do it? Certainly he has the physique. He has the, he's not a rookie anymore. He has the experience, and he certainly could do it. Just how does he handle that would be my big question mark, right? Because it's going to be a big investment with him, right? He's going to be top of the echelon when it comes to you're looking at salary, right? So he's going to be eating up a lot of cap space, and from everything I hear, he's nothing but a great guy in the locker room, right? So I think he would fit in well. It's certainly somebody the other guys could learn from as well, right? Probably not as much as the more, I guess, seasoned veteran, such as like a Devontae Adams, but a guy that certainly shows up to work and does his job and does it well. So, as we mentioned, we talked about Devontae Adams. So I know we've ran through his before, but let's just take a glance at his again, real quick, Bryson.
Overall grade 75.8, 30th in the league. Receiving grade 76.8, also 30th in the league. Targets 135, 10th in the league. Receptions 85, 14th in the league. Receiving yards 1,063, 15th in the league. And receiving touchdowns 8, 12th in the league.
Yeah. So does anything on this, just kind of catch your eye right off the bat, Bryson?
Receiving yards.
Yeah. And to me, as I mentioned, he played half the season with I want to say Oakland, but it's the Las Vegas Raiders, right? Who has a guy at quarterback, that on any other team probably wouldn't be in the starting position. So he played half the season with Aaron Rodgers, right? So, and put up these fantastic numbers. Yeah, he's aging a little bit, but he's certainly, on paper, he's aging. His play certainly hasn't shown it, right? He still appears to be the Devontae Adams that, we grew to know and love in Green Bay prior to his departure, right? So to me, the stats are a little bit lying on him. I think they probably would be a little bit higher. But unfortunately, he was with the Raiders to start the season with there, and that truly affected his stats. But certainly still had a pretty solid year, and it certainly helped out having Garrett Wilson across from him in New York too, right? So that definitely frees some of the attention off of him there. So it allowed him to kind of get back on track and get right with his stats a little bit in that sense. But yeah, absolutely. So let's just take a look. So we looked at T. Higgins drops, right? He had 2 drops, 10 touchdown catches. So Devontae Adams drops are up a little bit, right? 10 drops, 8 touchdown receptions. And again, you got to take these stats with a grain of salt a little bit, right? Because he didn't have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball for the entire season. It wasn't really until up around the trade deadline where he was able to get with Rodgers. So, in an ideal world, you'd probably, go with the younger talent, T. Higgins. you know, with Green Bay, if we're able to get it at the right price and not have to give up a whole lot of draft capital for him, and we know him, he knows the city. You know, he's got history with some of the players. He's familiar with Jordan Love. He was there for a couple of years with Love. He's familiar with Josh Jacobs. It just certainly makes all the sense in the world that they would try to bring in, you know, if he's willing, bring in Devontae Adams back into Green Bay, right?
And it sounds like he is willing.
Yeah, no, certainly sounds like he hasn't shut that door, which would be fantastic. So, as I mentioned before, we'd have to dust off our jerseys, but you know, we'd certainly welcome him back with open arms. That's for sure. So, don't want to read in again. Don't want to read into the comments too much, but it did look like, you know, some of the players in that wide receiver room after the initial Josh Jacobs comments, you know, weren't too pleased with it, right? And I don't know if you're looking too far into that. You know, Jaden Reed had a post out there and then deleted it, and I believe it was Wicks had a bunch of laughing emojis and then a thumbs down emoji regarding Josh Jacobs' comments. But you know, I don't think Josh Jacobs was saying anything that we haven't been saying, that the fans haven't been saying, right? We really lacked at wide receiver this year. You know, we didn't have that. Nobody stepped up. So, I mean, if they are upset about it, they have nobody to blame but themselves for the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. And, you know, when Jordan Love was asked about it, he did take the more political thing, but he didn't shut the door. He knows, you know, he loves the guys he has on the team, right? Of course. But, you know, certainly, like anyone else, he would welcome in a number one wide receiver, you know, especially a guy like Devontae Adams, who he knows. I mean, he spent a couple years in Green Bay together it was as a backup quarterback, but, you know, certainly he sung high praise about Adams. Adams has sung high praise about Love. And, again, him and Josh Jacobs have that history in Vegas where it certainly seemed like they were pretty solid teammates there too, right? So, looking at these two guys, Bryson. So, as I mentioned, ideal world, yeah, let's bring in T. Higgins, right? But for living in a more practical world, it probably makes more sense to bring in Adams because we're not going to have to give up a lot of capital. And when I say that, I'm talking about draft picks, or I'm talking about salary cap, or it gives you a little more leverage to go out and get another guy to bolster your team.
Mm-hmm.
So play GM here, Bryson. Where's your head at with this?
We either get T. Higgins or try to trade up a little, a little bit, and get Travis Hunter.
Yeah, again, yeah, it's great. Yeah, I mean, T. Higgins would be awesome. If you get Travis Hunter, you know, that's great. That would be awesome. I just, outside of that, you know, even bringing in Hunter, just to me, you're just adding more inexperience, right? Travis Hunter, great college player, but there's going to be a learning curve. You know, he's not going to be facing the defenses that Colorado had to face, right? He's going to be facing much tougher, faster, stronger opponents in the NFL, and that's just a harsh reality of it. So, again, there's going to be a learning curve for any rookie that comes into the league. So I think that's where Josh Jacobs is kind of getting at with these comments. He wants to bring in that veteran, you know, somebody who can kind of elevate everyone around him in that wide receiver room. So, you know, if they're able to go out and get a young stud at wide receiver in the draft, that's awesome. But I still think, you know, it certainly wouldn't hurt to bring in a veteran presence into that locker room.
Yeah.
You kind of agree with that?
Yeah. The only problem is we're gonna have to pay him a lot of money, and he's gonna retire soon, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. And I don't know. I'd have to dig into his contract a little bit, but I don't know how much of that money is guaranteed here because I think he has 2 years left on his deal. So a lot of those contracts are kind of front loaded, where they're, you know, signing bonuses. You know, all the guaranteed money's usually gone by the time the latter part of the contract hits. So I mean, he's got 2 years left. I couldn't imagine there being a whole lot of guaranteed money left, but if he's willing, he's towards the later part of his career too. If he's ring chasing like Josh Jacobs is, maybe he would take, kind of a trade and restructure of the contract to come to a place like Green Bay and make one last run at it for a Super Bowl.
Hmm.
Right. I mean, as it is now, yeah. I mean, if he wouldn't be willing to do that, that certainly would be a concern. But right now, if he would be willing to, once the trade's initiated, kind of restructure that contract to make it more team friendly, certainly makes a lot of sense. And Green Bay would certainly make a lot of sense for him as well, just based off his history, not only with the city and the team, but the players. More specifically, your offensive players, his experience with Jordan Love, his experience with Josh Jacobs. So, to me, I'm advocating it. Devontae Adams, let's do it.
Hmm.
As long as we don't have to give up too much as far as salary cap goes. And, I couldn't imagine the Jets wanting a whole lot of draft capital for him, but that's
Yeah,
kind of where my head is with it right now.
I'd say about $13 million is good.
Yeah, I certainly that's if we can get I tell you what, if we can get a guy like Devonte Adams in there, 13 million would be fantastic. Just if you could get him for anything under 20, I think that would be it'd be great, right? It'd give him another couple years to really make a
Two,
run
three
at it with
years.
Green Bay. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think at the minimum, I think he's got 2 good years left in him. Right, certainly
Hmm.
hasn't shown any signs of regression in his play on the field. He still seems to have all the tools that he had when he was with us. So excited to see what happens. But if it were up to me, yep, let's do it. Let's bring him back in. See what we can do. Make another run at it.
And as always,
Go Pack, go!